No, that's what we do here at the podcast. We're never ready. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. This is the episode of the FatmanStephens podcast. Can y'all see me? It's okay. We're going to get through it. I don't care about your Google Assistant. Welcome back. It's been a few weeks since I've been recording. Just a lot of things going on in my life. Working on Mondays has thrown me off. My recording day is Mondays. We're recording today on a Sunday. It is Memorial Day weekend. It's happy Double or Nothing. I'm supporting my man Keith Lee. Don't think they're going to win tonight, but I'm supporting them because we support black people.
That's right.
Even though Ricky Starks and Hobbs are black too. I'm supporting a black team. Anyway, we got Mark Kendrick here. We're not talking about wrestling today. We're not talking about wrestling. We're doing something different for the FatmanStephens podcast. Mark wants to talk about round one of the NBA playoffs. I almost said finals, but that makes sense to me. I'm new to the sports game, y'all. Okay, it's been a little bit. I'm getting to the sports in my 30s. Okay, but we're gonna talk a little bit about that. We can probably talk about the whole, like I said, talk about the whole
playoffs. At this point.
Playoffs. And again, I haven't watched too many of them, so Mark is going to take leadership in this episode, and we'll go from there. So, Mark, I'll turn it over to you.
What's going on, folks? So I am the first one I did want to talk about because me and Marcus actually talked briefly about this one when it was going on, which was one of the first series that stuck out in the first round, which was Boston versus the Nets.
Sorry.
As you can tell, he knows a lot about that series. Some of these other ones we're gonna see, but that series was probably one of the most interesting sweeps I've seen in NBA history that I've been watching basketball. Now, I'm a quick history of my basketball knowledge. I was always a basketball fan when I got into sports, but I used to like football more. And then the Sixers drafted Allen Iverson, who then became my favorite basketball player of all time. And that's when it switched for me for basketball to become my favorite sport.
Yeah, family. Tell me what happened when they lost.
Yeah, well.
We're going to talk about that?
We're going to talk about it. So
Sorry. I think it's important.
It's important. So this is also where I went from an insane fan to a more controlled fan.
Okay.
So this is 2002. So we're laughing because when you hear this story, it's a whole thing to it.
It's a whole experience.
It's a whole experience. So 2001, because the Sixers get to the finals. We lose to the Lakers 4-1. But, that's the first time the Sixers got to the finals since 83. And they won it in 83. So 2002, come back the next year. Now, that season, the Sixers did okay. I don't remember exactly what seed they were. But obviously it wasn't as good as 01. And AI was hurt a lot of that year in 2002. Needless to say, ended up playing Boston. So I want to skip to where I had to switch from being so invested to being more controlledly invested. Game 5, absolutely get annihilated. I'm at my mom's house. Now, how old was I? So 2001. So I would have been 15. Yeah, 15.
That's math.
Yeah. So So 2002. I've been 15. So I'm a May baby. So I wasn't yet. It wasn't yet my birthday when this happened.
Right.
It
wasn't the finals wasn't it?
No, this was the first round. This happened in the first round, and absolutely got waxed by the Celtics. So I proceeded to cry first, and literally went upstairs to my mom, and she called my brother. Now I don't know if he remembers this or not. He was like, "Bro, for real." It was like, really? This is what we doing? So that was my wake-up call for realizing that I can like this sport, I can have my team, I can have my favorite player, but not get so invested that I'm sitting there crying about something that has nothing to do with me at all. It has no effect on my life at all. But yet I was losing it like as if I was actually playing the game on the team. That was my wake-up call to be like, all right, I gotta calm down with this.
I gotta chill. Just
bring it down a little bit. Just bring it down a little bit.
Notches,
exactly. So ever since then, still my favorite sport. Obviously, the Sixers are still my favorite team. AI is still my favorite player of all time. But now I'm more like, hey, did they at least try and put their best effort forth? If they did, hey, you win, you lose.
Right.
All right, let's move on and let's see what happens next year.
Right.
But it took literally bawling, crying for that to happen, to realize
That's
it,
great.
and my brother to just do it, just as simple as really, to wake me up to be like, all
So
right,
we're done.
all right, yeah.
Wow.
So yes, that's the backstory of my entry into basketball and why it became my favorite. And a little funny story of sort of where I had to switch things up of don't take it too serious. It's still a game. It's still fun to watch.
Great.
But yes.
That's great.
And as you can tell, Marcus knows the story because yes.
I mean, Mark knows my story because I cried. I cried during wrestling. I cried when Shawn Michaels beat Triple H
Yep.
at SummerSlam 2002. I cried.
Yeah.
Triple H my favorite wrestler. Shouldn't have lost that match. Should not over. It's like 20 years. It's 20 years old in August, by the way.
20 years.
20 years in August.
Jeez.
It's crazy.
Wow.
But
Wow. So we all, I feel like this. Everybody probably has a story of sports. If you like sports,
Yeah.
whoever likes sports, because as we know, not everybody likes sports. But if you like sports, I'm pretty sure anybody has a story that me and Marcus has, are close to it.
you got one where your fandom was
Just
more
over the
top. It was a little bit too much. You had to catch yourself. Everybody knows. 100%.
Exactly. So we're going to fast forward now, which is funny, to the 2022 playoffs. We're going to start in the first round. And like I said, I wanted to bring up first the Brooklyn and Nets series because, like I said, me and Marcus sort of talked about that a little bit while it was going on.
Mm.
Again, Boston swept Brooklyn 4-0. There was a day in the NBA where the first round was a 5-game series. Yeah, it was a 5-game series. So you can the sweep was 3-0 if you swept. It wasn't until I don't know the exact year, but it wasn't that long ago.
It's
maybe
been recent,
it was really recent where
recent.
every round is at most 7 games. It didn't happen until you got to the second round, and beyond in the past.
Right.
When they started doing multiple rounds in the playoffs. So it was a sweep, but it wasn't your normal sweep. Because every single game, and I didn't realize this until the game 4, and I watched pretty much all 4 of the games. And I've watched as much of the playoffs as I can, without a question, because like I said, I'm a basketball fan first and foremost, and this has been one of the most interesting playoffs in a while for many reasons. And one, before I go back to the Boston and Nets series, injuries. I mean, John Morant got hurt, and B broke his face.
Yeah.
He came back, but wasn't completely the same. In the Eastern Conference Finals, Tyler Herro's been hurt, Jimmy Butler's been hurt, Robert Williams been hurt, Marcus Smart has been in and out of the lineup, along with Robert Williams as well. So there's just been a ton of, and I think I said John Morant as well, one of the biggest stars in the league already, and he's only been in the league 3 years. He got hurt, so it's been just a very weird playoff. And then just some of these scores, some of the, these games have been very interesting. And then there's been some blowouts where you're like, it was like, what the heck? Like Memphis blew out Golden State. Was it game 5? Game 4, game 5 in the second round. At one point they were up by 50 points, and
That's ridiculous.
They ended up winning the game by like 39 or 40. And Marcus is looking up exactly which game that is. It was game 4. It was in Memphis, and it was like matter of fact, it was game 5 if I remember.
Yeah. 134-95.
Yeah, that's game 5, right?
Yep.
Yeah, game 5. That's what I'm talking about. It was so all over the place where you had the Boston and Nets series. Every single game was by single digits, including the first one where it took a spinning layup. That
was the only game I think I watched all the way through.
Yeah,
that was an amazing game.
Exactly.
Like again, let me tell you, my basketball.
Yeah.
I'm like casual. Like I'll try to watch the playoffs definitely because that's higher stakes. I like things with stakes in it. So I've been watching it since I want to say I really got deep invested into it while working at Sonesta because when I would go on break, basketball being the break room. I'm like, let me check it out. Let me watch it. And what year was when we got Philadelphia got eliminated with the Kyrie.
Oh yes, 2019. It was it's a 2018-2019 season.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was a famous spin around shot and and winning.
That's when I knew I was a fan because I was invested in that game heavily.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, that sucks. But it's like move on.
Yeah.
But then in the pandemic when they did the play-in all the tournaments, I literally watched basketball that one Saturday from like 1 to 10. Like I had it on the TV. I sat on this couch for the whole day. So I was like, yeah, I'm a fan now.
Yep.
That's when I knew. But that was the only game I actually was able to watch because how it worked, how life is and stuff like that. But I watched it from start to finish. I was like, wow, that was an amazing game. I'm not gonna say it's probably the best basketball game I've seen, but it was really I have no dog in the fight in this game, and I just was like going back and forth. And you're just like, who's gonna win? Yep. If it was for a casual fan, that's the type of basketball game you want to see. Yeah. Like this whole series was. It's if you're not too big into basketball like I am, like again, a casual, let's walk on the inside out, you don't know the rules. This is a series that you should have definitely watched.
It was definitely one of those series where, first of all, you got a Brooklyn Nets team who talking about drama throughout the whole season.
I feel like I heard about them like every week of the year.
And you had the Kyrie drama. We're not gonna go into all that. I'll just say vaccinations. That's it. Look it up. You had the James Harden basically forcing his way out to be traded. You had KD was hurt for a good chunk of the second half of this season. As they said, this was an unusual 7 seed. If you look at their talent, even after the trade, you wouldn't think that's a 7 seed talent. And that's no disrespect to other 7 seeds, but they had enough talent that you would think, okay, they're like a third. They went from one like they were last year.
Right.
A 1 to 3 type of seed. So it made sense in a lot of ways. I thought that series, I'm be honest, once I saw the matchup, I thought Boston was going to win once I saw the matchup anyway. But I was like, all right, it's going 6 games. And Boston's going to win in 6.
Yeah.
But, again, that was one of the most exciting sweeps because every game was close. Like, there was, even if there were periods where within the game, Boston got a big lead or the Nets got a big lead, by the end of the game, it came down to the wire.
Right. Yep.
That's all you can ask in playoff series.
Man, that layup though.
Yeah.
Words can't describe how much I was just sitting there. I sat up like what? Yeah. It was just stuff like that, man. You can't replicate that in any sport. Like it was fantastic. No. Great series.
No, definitely. One of the other series, and I'll do one of the series that was kind of a dud, but I wasn't shocked, and then I'm gonna get to the other series that turned out to be way better than I thought it was gonna be. So the dud series, and this made sense because the team was much better, was Miami and Atlanta. Now, I figured Miami either was going to sweep Atlanta or they were going to win in 5. They ended up winning in 5.
Right.
Because they're the better team. And that always doesn't translate sometimes. Yeah. The better team doesn't always look like the better team.
Right.
But they did. It was only really one game in that series, and I think it was game 2. It was the Atlanta game. Either game 3 or game 4, where Atlanta won by like 1 point.
It was game 3.
Game 3, there you go. Other than that, the rest of the series, Miami not basically, they won by double digits.
Smack them around.
Exactly.
Like 24 points,
exactly.
10 points, 26 points. The last game they won by 3.
Yeah. But it was they handled it. Miami played like the number 1 seed. Plain and simple. They played like the number 1 seed. And as Marcus was just reading those scores, as you can tell, they handled them.
Yeah.
They dusted. Atlanta.
Poor Atlanta. Yeah, all right. I'll be all right.
Exactly. I mean, it was in Eastern Conference Finals last year, so it's not like they're, And Nate McMillan, I'm going to say this for Atlanta, and I don't know this fact or not. If Nate McMillan does not get a long-term contract with Atlanta, y'all are ridiculous. I just want to throw that out there. Sorry, I had to plug that in.
Just put that on there for you so y'all to understand. They're like, this Mark fellow, we gotta do it now. We gotta.
They might have gave him a contract. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. But if they haven't, that's ridiculous.
They need to do it. Basically, he said, hurry it up.
Exactly.
Speed it up, please.
Get it done. One of the other series, and I want you definitely, obviously, to continue to come back in this. Is the surprise series in the first round. And again, we're going to talk more about the playoffs as well. No doubt, Memphis versus Minnesota. First of all, it was a record in this sense. No team in playoff history, and I didn't know this, blew multiple 10-plus leads in the same series.
That's sad.
Like, if one...
That's really sad. I'm sorry. I'm like, no, I dang, y'all. Everybody gets on the Warriors for blowing a 3-1 lead years ago, but like, if you had the lead, you let it go each time.
Yeah.
Somebody could get fired.
And 2 of those times was in Minnesota where it happened.
Somebody could get fired. Somebody gotta get fired.
Yeah, it was in the most egregious one, or the one that stood out the most was game 3. It was game 3 or 4. It was the one.
Let's see, game 3. Despite trailing by 25 points on 2 occasions, the Grizzlies fell back late in the game, including going 42-12 run.
Yes.
Somebody get fired.
Exactly. So.
You ever get fired from that team?
No, not yet.
Somebody get fired.
Well, this is the one thing that they can say. It's been since the last time they made the playoffs was 2018, so they can say, "Hey, it's been a minute since we've been there," and it's all.
I don't want to hear that. Almost cursed. I don't want to hear that malarkey. Sorry. Get out of here.
I know. Which is bad is that game 3. Not only did they go in at 42, what was it 42-13?
42-12.
42-12. Yeah, 42-12. At one point, Memphis went on a 13-0 run or 19-0 run or something like that. What made it bad wasn't that the run happened. The coach didn't call a timeout until after that run was over. for Minnesota. Like,
so, yo.
Like, all right,
what's up?
Let's score enough points. Let's score enough points. All right, now I'm finally calling this timeout.
What the hell's going on?
I sat there watching it, and I literally was like, "Is this happening?" Not the run. Because as they say, basketball is a game of runs. That's bound to happen. Literally, you scored no points for a 13-0 run or 19-0 run, and did not at one point in that run called a timeout. I was like, "Is this happening?"
Strange. Gather your troops together, yo. Like,
Exactly.
Like 5 points, it's like, all right, okay, maybe 10.
Yeah.
This timeout time. It was 19.
It's 13 or 19, one of the two. It was 13-0 or 19-0.
Double digits is bad, and you guys are something's wrong. Yes. Somebody's not. There's a disconnect.
Yes.
You need some motivation.
Exactly.
I don't even know sports like that, but I feel like if you're getting beat up that badly, like that's what timeouts are for.
Exactly.
Gather yourself. Maybe somebody's tired. Don't need to be substituted. Something like
yeah.
Somebody can get fired.
That was he got the coach. I think his name is something Finch. Mm. Minnesota's coach, and this is who we're referring to when talking about this whole run and didn't call timeout. Got crushed the next day because it's like, what? Yes, you're as far as coaching, like head coaching is concerned, yeah, a young coach. In age, no, I think he's in his 50s or something like that, or late 40s. So, no, matter of fact, I think he's in his 50s. So he's not quote unquote a young coach in age wise, but in experience, head coaching wise, in experience, he's considered a young coach. Okay. In his core is young, but you still have enough really good veterans in D'Angelo Russell and a defensive-minded guy in Patrick Beverly where somebody should have been like, yo, we need to call timeout right now.
Get it together, y'all. Like,
they looked as young as the majority team is. Like that when that run was happening, that's what it looked like. And Memphis is a young team too. But obviously they were the one on the run, so why would they call a timeout? Right. But it's just like the coaching looked inexperienced at that moment. Most of the players looked inexperienced at them. Not that they didn't have talent or anything. Right. It just looked like a very inexperienced moment. And yes, they were bound to happen, but it was mind-boggling.
That's crazy. See now, when I look at like I'm looking at the bracket now and everything. I know I root for like players on teams, right? Like for the Phoenix Suns, I was obviously rooting for Chris Paul. Yeah. Because I want him to get his ring. You know what I mean? Like again, I'm not really invested in most of it, but I like storylines. As wrestling fans, TV and game stuff, I like the storylines. And it's actually since last year, or was it the play-in tournament where they went like 12-0?
It was
into the playoffs at all?
Yeah, so it was when they were in a bubble.
The bubble. I'm sorry. Yeah.
They went 8-0, but missed the play-in. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. They missed being able to be in the playoffs because they were in a play-in. But yeah, they didn't win enough to get into the playoffs itself.
That's when I became like a fan because they have like an underdog story. It was like y'all did y'all job. Y'all still didn't get in there. Yeah. And then they got to the finals last year. And I was like, all right, maybe this is y'all time. They didn't do it, so I felt bad. So I was hoping for the Suns to win it all, but nope. Sorry, huh?
And it's interesting. Not only do you go from you missed the play-in after winning 8 straight in the bubble, and that's pre-Chris Paul. Yeah. But but this is the Chris Paul effect. You go from that to now the next year you're in the finals.
Right, the finals, yeah.
And listen, Devin Booker is one of the best players in the league. Yeah. No question. Mikal Bridges stepped up to that next level from his rookie year to his sophomore year that next season. But this is where you really saw the Chris Paul effect. DeAndre Ayton looked like a totally different person with Chris Paul on the team. From his rookie year to his sophomore year to the first year with Chris Paul.
Right.
And you saw, how that affected him in a good way. This year, they go from, losing an NBA Finals to Milwaukee last year and Chris Middleton balling out his mind and shutting the critics up about, okay, he can play in the regular season, but he hasn't stepped up in the playoffs. He did that last year. Same thing with Giannis. So they lost to a very good team in Milwaukee, and Drew Holiday played his role as well, no doubt.
Right.
To the this year, Phoenix has the best record in the league. It's not really close. Like, the next best, they won 64 games. The next best team won 55 games. Normally, you win 55 games, you're pretty close to whoever the number one seed is.
Right.
And 55 games is really good. Don't get me wrong. That was Memphis, by the way.
That's a lot.
But Phoenix was that good to come into the playoffs this year. Within the second game, Devin Booker gets hurt. So they play the Pelicans. Everybody think that's going to be a sweep, including myself. Booker gets hurt. That turns from what most likely is going to be a sweep to now a 6-game series, which ended up actually being a good series. I'm not going to lie. Because I thought it was going to be not a really competitive series.
Right.
I didn't even watch that series. I just saw the results afterwards. I'll be completely. I just saw the results afterwards on that series. And listen, that's no knock on New Orleans because Brandon Ingram is he could be that next dude. I don't think he's going to be the face of the league, but he has the talent to be a multiple All-Star. He's already an All-Star once, but he has that talent to be a multiple All-Star. And really now, even to me, more so be that lead guy for New Orleans, and then with Zion, and then if they keep CJ McCollum. Saying all that, exactly. Saying all that, Phoenix was that good this season. I was like, I'm sorry.
It's all right.
It's like y'all, the Pelicans, y'all about to get blown out. I don't care what y'all did. and again, remember they were, for a lot of reasons. They were like 37-45 by the end of the season. Won the play-in to be the 8th seed.
Right.
So just everything made me thought it was gonna be sweet. That turned it out partially because of injury, because Devin Booker got hurt, and be honest, CP3, Chris Paul, was not completely himself. Like it was some games where he just didn't play like you thought he would play, which led to it being a closer series than anybody thought.
Right.
But yeah, the sentimental part of it, like, is Chris Paul, this is the season he's going to finally potentially get his ring. Now, I will say this. The East this year, from top to bottom, even going as far as the two play-in teams. Now, granted, I didn't think, the 9th and 10th seed were championship contenders, or even the AC was championship contenders. But there was at least 4 teams in the East that you could say legitimately, 3 or 4 teams in the East that you would say legitimately were championship contenders. The East hasn't been that deep since the 90s. And that's not saying it hasn't had, obviously, championship teams because, Miami's won a couple since then. And, there's a bunch of other East teams and, in Detroit and so on and so forth.
Right.
Cleveland. But the East has been so top-heavy for most of the 2000s. As far as championship contenders, not just good teams. Like, there's been, your top dogs and then good teams under them.
Gotcha.
But true championship contenders. You're getting about 1 or 2 lately on average. But the last couple seasons, you're starting to see that depth get back to the East. Whereas at the West, this year, it was way top heavy. Like, as far as, you might have had some other good records. But let's be honest. It was really Phoenix, Golden State, Memphis question mark, even though they had the second best record in the league. But really, Phoenix and Golden State were the true championship contenders coming out of the West. Everybody else in the West was like, you don't know. So I really thought Phoenix was going to come out of the West. Now, I said Phoenix or Golden State, but I really thought it was more likely than Phoenix. And then Memphis has that outside shot.
Gotcha.
But to see Phoenix get, they lost in the second round to Dallas. I didn't see that happening. I thought Dallas would play them well if they did meet, but I thought Phoenix would come out with that. So that was interesting to see Phoenix not even be in the Western Conference Finals.
Gotcha. So who was your pick to win the whole thing beforehand?
So taking away injuries. So no injuries, no. Even if the because like I said, Devin Booker got hurt, but he came back.
Right.
Chris Middleton didn't come back. He got hurt in the second round, so he didn't play at all. I mean, no, excuse me, he got hurt in the first round, so he didn't play at all in the second round with the Bucks in Boston. Now I thought at some point he was going to come back. That didn't happen.
Right.
So if you take away injuries, I've honestly said in this order: Miami, Milwaukee, Phoenix, or the Sixers. Would be that would, and then the Warriors to me would have been the next team. Those were my top contenders to win it all. And then Memphis was kind of like that outside. I didn't think they would win it all, but I thought they had a really good outside chance of getting at least to the finals. Gotcha. Potentially. But that was the order of who I thought. Yeah.
Well, you're almost there. I mean, we'll see. Because you're number one. You're number one on the line tonight. That's gonna be a good one.
Oh my goodness, yes. And let me phrase that. And no disrespect to Boston. Actually, I would have had Boston ahead of Golden State. So my fault. So it would have been after the Sixers. I would have said Boston, then Golden State, then Memphis. And the only reason why I put the Sixers ahead of Boston, not because to me, I think, especially after the trade, Boston's a deeper team. But for the first time in a long time, we actually had their number in the regular season. And I know that doesn't always translate to the playoffs. But I gave us a slight advantage if we played them in the series. But I honestly thought if we played Miami, what happened was what happened. Regardless if Embiid was hurt or not, I didn't think we would beat Miami anyway. I would say 80-30. I would say 80% of me thought Miami was going to win, 30 thought the Sixers was going to win. But then once Embiid got hurt, even if he came back, I was like, there definitely ain't no shot.
You could feel, at least I can feel talking to Sixers fans once Embiid got hurt. I'll never forget. We were at the front desk, and like the news broke that he was injured. One guy was like, "Hey, did you hear Embiid was injured?" Then the bellman came over and said, "Hey, Embiid's injured." And then security and an engineer came. Embiid's injured. I'm like, "Yo, this is like," it was so wild to see. You would think like the president got shot or something like that. It was just so wild how people you can feel like the air deflating from people. It's like, oh man, I thought we had a chance this year. It's like, oh, maybe not. It's crazy how much one player can affect the mentality of a team or the confidence, and obviously it proved it because they got
lost in 6 games.
It was 6. I mean,
it wasn't a waxing because after the first 2 games, Miami destroyed the Sixers after the first 2 games. Yeah, especially in those second halves. After that, at least the Sixers took it to 6, but it's just it was never going to be enough if Embiid wasn't full. No, and in the commentary they say this all the time. No one is ever fully healthy if you get to the playoffs. I don't care what injury it is, whether it's something minor or something big. No one's completely healthy. But if you had basically a almost half Embiid and James Harden not being Houston James Harden, the Sixers weren't going to beat Miami like that.
Right.
Period. So our only chance was Embiid being as close to healthy, and when that didn't happen, it was like, hey.
Right. It's just so crazy when you just see the people just like. Man, they just it's I don't know. It's like you pissed in their Cheerios. Exactly. People were so upset. I was just like, well, it's always next year, right? Exactly. You always trust the process, and the process is still going. Isn't it?
Exactly. Yep. And this is what upset people though even more about that. It wasn't even just that he got hurt, because as we've learned, yes, the past 2 seasons Embiid has been number 2 in MVP voting, and honestly this year, and listen, Joker, for those that's his name. That's his nickname. He's a center for the Denver Nuggets, one of the best players in the league.
MVP, right?
Yeah, MVP, back-to-back seasons. And I said this to somebody in the barbershop. I was like, listen, to me, at the time, as the year was winding down, I said your top 3 MVP candidates are Joker. Again, that's his nickname, not his actual name. But just look it up, you'll see. Just don't look up the movie Joker. It'll be confusing. But anyway.
Very confusing.
The center for the Denver Nuggets, Jokovic, I think I'm saying his name right. His real name right. Embiid and then Giannis were my top 3 candidates. But really, to me, Embiid and Joker separated themselves as the top 2 by the end of the season. I was like, if either one of them won an MVP this year, you can say either one of them deserved it. That's how good of a season both of them had. And especially when it beat his injury history, the past 2 seasons has, at least in a regular season, has been the healthiest and the most conditioned that he's, been in.
Gotcha.
And he had a knee injury last year, which kept him out a couple, I think it was like 2 weeks or something like that. Towards the end of the regular season. But outside of that, he's been relatively healthy the past 2 seasons. So it was sort of this thought like, all right, he's getting through these first 3 games, he's good, no major injury. All right, this game 6, nothing happened. Right. Yeah, he had the torn thumb, the labor on the thumb, but it seemed like he was figuring it out somewhat. He was never going to fully be what he was in the regular season with a torn thumb. That's not how it works in basketball.
I put it back on, coach. We good. Exactly. It's definitely going to affect you. It's a hand.
Exactly. And that's the sport you need your hands for.
Yeah, like, come on now.
So, yes, he was never, that was, but what made people upset was when that injury happened, the Sixers were up by 26 or 29, and this was game 6. And it's like, why is he still in the game? And then the injury happened. And he, I exaggerate saying he broke his face, but he fractured his orbital ball. Yep. So it's like...
It's breaking your face. It's breaking your face.
You break your face.
That's breaking your face,
yeah.
dude.
So it's like, those reactions that Marcus are talking about made it even more. Because it's like, it could have been avoided. Yes, injuries can happen anytime in any sport. Right. But when you're up 26 in that closing game in the fourth quarter,
oh my goodness,
just why is he still there? And it was like, I think, because by that point I turned the game off because we got this. Right. And I think it was maybe 6 or 7 minutes left in the game. And yes,
it's your fault.
And I know sometimes coaches can be paranoid because it is true because of the 3-point line. Yeah. Like a 20-point lead nowadays almost means nothing unless it's like a minute left in the game. So I can kind of, that's a little bit of exaggeration, but you know what I mean. Like 5 minutes and up, no coach, for the most part, feels safe even with a 20-point lead in the fourth quarter because of the advent of so many threes being shot, and Toronto was a pretty good 3-point shooting team. So I can hear part of that. I can feel like that can be part of Doc's process. Doc Rivers is a Sixers coach for those who don't know, but I can probably hear part of that process of it. But still, the fan is like, but you're up 26 or 29, and it's 7 minutes in the fourth quarter.
If it gets really bad, just put them back
exactly.
in.
And somebody did say that, like, if it got that bad to a point, then bring them back.
Yeah. But, it's a 10-point lead. All right, go back in. Like,
yeah.
You try to justify Mark, and you done a good job.
Listen, I agree with the fans. I would have took him out. I'm sorry, but
look, don't know. Again, casual fan here, y'all. Everybody, don't get on me. This is more so Mark's taking the reins on this episode. But again, take the dude out. Like, you guys are good.
Exactly.
You're good.
Exactly.
Doesn't make any sense. Like, oh my god.
And again, as Marcus is saying, if it gets to that much of a crunch where you feel like, okay, they're starting to really cut the lead down, which again, like we said in the advent of the NBA, that can happen. 20-point lead. I mean, if you get up by like 30 plus, you're pretty secure. I think so. Even in this day and age, if you're up by like 30 plus and it's like 6-7 minutes in the fourth quarter, you're pretty much much secure. Yeah. But 20-point leads, mid 20-point leads, I can understand like, are we really, is this late release, safe? But again, put them out. There's been plenty of times that happened. All right, we set them down. And this is, when I say we, I'm talking about just in general, sports in general. Set the player down. Okay, the team's starting to look like they're kind of losing their edge and the other team's starting to make a comeback. Okay, let's bring them back. Right. That could have been done. And I think that would have been more satisfying for the fans. But to be up, like I said, 20 plus, and he breaks his order mode at that moment is like
the irony.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like I watch a lot of Curb Your Enthusiasm. That's definitely something that would happen on that show. Like everything's going right, everything's going wrong. Oh, I'm injured. Legit, like stuff a sitcoms dream of.
Exactly.
Lord Jesus.
It is in one of the places that the Sixers historically, whether the Sixers have been good or bad, or Toronto have been good or bad, the Sixers have struggled to win. And it was only a few years ago, as Marcus mentioned earlier, that Kawhi Leonard shot. So everything in it was like, ooh, they just they just blew the Sixers out in Game 5 in Philly,
Right.
Toronto, to make it 3-2,
right.
to take it to Game 6. And then you have all the history with the Sixers being in Toronto, or just playing Toronto team, even during last year when, because of COVID, they weren't actually allowing the Raptors to play their home games in Toronto because they still had the ban and everything, so they played them somewhere else. But it just seems like just playing Toronto in general, at whatever home they're at, has been an issue for the Sixers. So it was like, oh, wait, we hit that game winner in Game 3, got out of Toronto to win. They crushed us in Game 5, and then now this happens in Game 6. So it's like
bad luck. It's like a bad juju. I know people believe in sports curses and things like that, superstitions. It's like a bad curse. Somebody's put a curse on Philadelphia and Toronto.
Exactly.
Just bad things happen when they beat up.
Exactly.
It's toxic. That's called a toxic relationship.
Yes.
That's what the kids call it.
It is.
But man, that was I'll just never forget that day. Just the air out of the whole hotel. It was crazy. I never you never want to take your loss to the street. That's how it felt like. That's how I really felt like it was just like, man, people were pissed. I get it. Like, man.
I remember when it happened. I remember the next day because, like I told you, the game was over in my mind. We did what we had to do. Sorry, sometimes I say we, not because I'm an insane fan like I used to be, but it's sometimes a habit. But I remember the next day, and I'm like, what happened? Matter of fact, I think my brother texted me. I was like, what happened? I was like, wait, what's going on? Either my brother texted me, or I was looking up something online or whatever, and I see Embiid breaks his orbital bone. I'm like, what in the world? And then they showed it. Matter of fact, no, I saw it on Comcast. Yeah, it was on Comcast, and they showed, how it happened. I was like, wait, really though? You were that close. You were that close to getting out of the first round without being injured. I mean, beyond the torn ligament in his thumb. It was, we're seeing it right now. We're seeing it right now, yes. Yep, that's happened. The score. Matter of fact, that makes it even worse. It was
what? It was 4 minutes left.
It was one.
Why is he in?
Exactly.
This is Game 6, right?
Yeah, this is Game 6. Yep. So, my apologies. It wasn't 6 or 7 minutes left. It was 3:58. This is a time and injury. 3:58 in the fourth quarter. Yeah. And Siakam got some pointy elbows. So, yeah.
I'm going to rest his comment. We're black, so I can say what I can say, but like, yeah.
No, it's real, like, because he's a skinny guy. No, it's like he's a thin player. Like, and it's worked for him. He's an all-star, multiple All-NBA team type of guy. He's been on an All-NBA team twice. He just, his elbows right there, right at point, and that one made it worse. 3 minutes and 58 seconds, up by 20, mid-20s in the fourth quarter.
It was 29 points.
20. As a matter of fact, there, 20. Yeah, 20.
Why still will be playing?
29 points.
I'm sorry.
29 points. No.
I don't get it.
That makes it again. Now you see why fans reacted as crazy as it did.
This is what I'm saying. All right, I'm a wrestling fan. Let's put it in wrestling terms. Let's say it's a 5-on-5 Survivor Series match. All right, it's 5 people, like 5 of the best. Pick the 5 best. You got Roman and Usos and 2 other people, and you got one person. Why is Roman facing the one guy when it's 5-on-1?
Exactly.
You send the Usos out there. You send Sami Zayn. You send or Solo.
Yeah.
You send one of the other people. Roman's not going to be wrestling.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's not needed. Because it's over. The job's over.
Exactly.
29-point lead.
3 minutes, 58 seconds. Fourth quarter. Game in hand.
I saw people were pissed off. This is one of those great. If Joel Embiid, Lord forbid, this never wins like a NBA champion in his life, it's gonna be one of those great like sports what ifs. Like what happens if Doc Rivers wasn't stupid? Sorry. I don't know. Casual fan just speaking casually.
In that moment, In that moment, Doc Rivers did the. I don't want to use that word. I'll say Doc Rivers overthought himself.
Okay.
He coached too much at that moment. And you say, how do you coach too much at that moment? That's overthinking. Like you're so petrified that just they can come back, that you're leaving. And it wasn't just Embiid. I think Harris was in there at that point. Maxey was in there. James Harden was in there. Yeah. So basically,
you're starting 5.
Basically, your starting 5 was in the game when it was clear. That's overthinking and being paranoid as a head coach. And this is what happened.
As we get ready to close the episode, I just want to read some of the comments because YouTube comments are cream of the crop, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to get up the PG ones or the PG-13 ones at least. All right, first one says, "Why the hell was Embiid playing?"
Exactly, this is true.
Why the hell was Embiid playing 30 up in the last 4 minutes of the gameplay? I'm starting to believe Doc Rivers is not really a doc. Oh my god. Doc was scared of was that scared of losing.
Told you. They overthought. The coach overthinking.
He said, "Really silly of the coach to have the starters up 25 to 30 points at this point, and the series is getting chippy with the fouls after 6 back and forth games.
Yep.
Here's another excuse why Doc loses."
Oh man,
that first comment though was literally what I said. That's why I started laughing like 10 minutes ago because I read it first.
and I want to bring this history real quick with Doc's history as far as coaching is concerned. And this is where I said the paranoia comes in. And I'm not speaking for him because I don't speak for anybody. Everybody has their own thoughts, opinions, and so on and so forth.
Right.
It's just observation. Yes, he was his best coaching job to me was 2 times. Obviously, the 2008 super team with Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Ray Allen in Boston.
The Avengers.
Exactly. And it wasn't Avengers because you can call Rondo Spider-Man because he was just coming up into who we know Rondo is. And being that one of the top point guards.
What a team.
Exactly.
Good Lord.
Exactly. They should have won 2 titles.
Actually, I think that's the team I played with because NBA Jam came out during that time. I think that's the team I played with because they were all on one team. You can't lose with that team.
They won 66 games that year or 65 games a year or something like that.
What a dream.
Exactly.
Good Lord.
Most of the big they were the great defenders team too. Along with they had the proper role players around them that knew what they do well and they did it well. And Doc coached them up well like that. Is also. And then his other best coaching job was his first coaching job in Orlando. Took a young Orlando team. Now, I don't remember if they made the playoffs that year. It was his first year as a head coach, or his first opportunity as a head coach. But either they made it and lost in the first round because they weren't yet where they were going to be able to move on and move into rounds like that post Shaq and Penny era. Dwight Howard didn't get there yet. And Tracy McGrady was still coming into Tracy McGrady. And even at his height, Orlando didn't get out the first round because they kept running into the top echelon of the East. So
echelon, good work.
Thank you. But the coach the way he did, the coach that team the way he did was a heck of a coaching job. Now this is where the whole why the hell did Joel Embiid played in the last 4 minutes of the game? All right, what's the other one? What a comment! All right, what's the other comment on there is don't be he's being scared to lose or something.
He's that scared to lose.
Yeah, he's that scared to lose. Now this is where that comes in. He's also had a history of having multiple 3-1 leads, and when I say as they say, just like players, they get all the credit when things goes well. Yeah. Then when things go bad, like the top players. Right. You get the credit when things goes well. You get the knock when things go bad. Same thing with coaches. Multiple times his teams, especially with the Clippers, had 3-1 leads and lost the series. So that's why my observation is that paranoia came in. Right. And it's like I don't care what's gonna like oh crap, man. We was just up 3-0. Now it's 3-2. I don't want to take any chances of this being 3-3, and who knows what's gonna happen in the Game 7. Gotcha. And we all know what happened in last year's Game 7 when Atlanta beat the Sixers, and the infamous Ben Simmons being scared to shoot a layup in the last couple minutes. Because he was scared to get fouled. Now that's not speculation. You can see that. Yeah. But so, oh man, so that's like Doc's coaching history. Is you see those high points, but then those 3-1s, and I think that's what crept in, or that's what observing it. That to me, that's the only reason why you make that decision is that you get so in your mind of those prior series that you lost 3-1 that those teams should have been in the NBA Finals or at least the conference finals. Yeah. And it's like, I'm going to be super paranoid. And so, it's a thin line with that stuff. But yes, it hurt to know that, it was 3 minutes and 58 seconds, up 29 points. You had your whole starting 5.
Right.
Except for Tobias.
And I agree with you because doubt can do that to you, where you question yourself, and it's like, and everybody like on the line. It's very easy to say it in retrospect, right? Because it's like, but you're not there on the court. You're not in his mind. What's going on? So I'm not justifying what he did because like I said, that's in his that's him. That's in his head. And again, like it's easy to say, oh, well, I would have did this way. Of course, you said that. You say that now because you know what happened.
Exactly.
Because we're living in the present and not in the past. So. I get it. I mean, I feel bad for the man. Sorry. I feel bad for Philadelphia as a whole. Well, I don't think Philadelphia deserves a parade anyway. I work in the city of Philadelphia, so you know how I feel. I'm still not over the Eagles parade.
Yeah, I know. You said that
was 4 years ago, Mark.
That was insane.
My goodness. All right. And closing out, so, all right, 3 teams left. You said Miami was your top team.
Yeah.
Is there you keep sticking with Miami in the finals?
Tonight is Game 7 with Miami and Boston, which, again, I thought that was going 7 games. That's two of the best. Well, first of all, that's the 2 best defensive teams in the league, and the next one would be Golden State as far as like defensive rating. And Golden State was one of the best before Draymond got hurt midway through the regular season, but they still ended up winning 53 games. But their defense wasn't the same until he came back. Okay. But yeah, to me, still saying all that with Phoenix out, and even with Phoenix in, I felt like I said Miami was my number 1 choice. Then it was Phoenix. So either way, I'm still sticking with Miami to win it all. And it's going to be whoever Golden State plays, because Golden State already won their series 4-1 against Dallas, which I wasn't too surprised about.
Sorry. I like Luka, so sorry.
And props up to Jason Kidd as far as he learned how to be a better coach this year than he was in the past. He had his other best run real quick, and I know it's about to end.
No, you're fine.
His other best run was early on with Milwaukee. So that was young Giannis before he became the Greek freak as we know him now.
Right.
But Kid kind of sputtered a little bit after that as far as like he had his next coaching opportunity in Brooklyn, and that was a disaster. I think they made the playoffs 1 of the years, but how that ended was bad. And then he kind of got his legs back being an assistant coach with the Lakers. Okay. So this year was his best coaching job, and for him, because it looks like he held himself accountable, and that's my whole thing. Like, be real about yourself. Hey, if you got to grow in certain things, don't try to front like you can't grow in those areas. Right. And I'm not saying it's easy, but at least make that effort. And to me, personally, professionally, it looked like he did that. So I was actually like, it'd be kind of fun to see, Kid coaching in the NBA Finals. He won the NBA championship with Dallas in 2011 when they beat the super team in the Heat in their first year, in the Heat's first year with by. It would have been a full exactly.
Sucks.
Yes, but when they played Golden State, I honestly wasn't surprised. I thought they would have lost in 6, not 5. And people say, "Well, that's just one game different." But hey,
that's different.
It's just still different.
Different.
So, in most of those games, with the exception of obviously the game Dallas won, and then a game that Golden State made the comeback and ended up winning that in game 2. Golden State pretty much overwhelmed Dallas in a lot of ways. So it wasn't as competitive as I thought it was going to be in general anyway. Gotcha. So that's why I said originally I thought it was going to go 6 when I saw them matched up. But to say all that to say, yeah, I still think if put it like this, whoever wins tonight with Miami and Boston, I think they're the champions. Okay. Because I think they match up very well with Golden State, or if Dallas would have won. And Boston is huge. Like they're small. When they had their full star lineup together, I think their shortest player is 6, and that's Marcus Smart. Maybe 6'4". That's a bad so 6'3" or 6'4". So, and with Miami, they're not necessarily as big, but neither is Golden State. So size necessarily wouldn't be sort of like a matchup problem for Miami. And in the other term for Boston, it would be an advantage, which is why this series with Boston and Miami has been just crazy.
Right. All right. Well, Mark said it here first. He said Miami gonna win it all.
Yep.
All right, that's what he said.
Yeah.
So this is going up now. Again, this will go up on Wednesday. So this is after whoever wins tonight. Yeah. I'm gonna be bold and say CM Punk's winning the AJ with title tonight. You going bold? I'm gonna go bold. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna go from there. Mark, plug your socials. Where can they find you at?
Thank you. So just my YouTube channel, True Greatness. If you want to hit me up on Twitter, is @TrueGreatness1. And then my IG is Mark Kendrick 71. So definitely check me out on any of those socials.
Continue to follow the podcast. We're on all podcast channels: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Deezer, Overcast, Pandora, Amazon Audible. Anywhere you get your podcast, it's the FatmanStephens, all one word, podcast. Also, I'm on Twitter, Fatman Podcast 90. Tell me your ideas. I got my next episode eventually. This is gonna be crazy. I'm going to do all the tier lists of rankings lists of all the Mountain Dew flavors I can find.
Okay.
Because Mountain Dew is like my favorite soda. So I saw that.
That's true.
I saw it on his Attack of the Show on G4, and they didn't like the flavors, and I'm very offended. So I have to project and now do it myself because they can't do it like I can do it.
There you go.
So I like Mountain Dew because that's my soda.
It is, folks.
So it
is
my favorite soda. But anyway, thanks for joining us for another episode of the FatmanStephens podcast. Almost messed that up. So bad. I need a drink. We'll see you again next time. Goodbye.